I don't think I ever would have guessed that the 2025 regular season would be very chaotic and exciting, and that season is only seeping into this small gap before the college football playoff, as we've got controversy, news. Some people got their feelings hurt, but we're going to cover it all. So let's just jump right in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of College Football Under Review, show made by a football fan for football fans everywhere. We've got our bowl season preview episode and some recent news, controversy, the Heisman, just a bunch of cleanup that has seeped into this last week, because it seems like the 2025 college football season/year is still going very strong, very chaotic, very just in your face, and something new just happens every day. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Lets us know that you enjoy the content, helps us out, and that you want to be a part of the Under Review community. And as always, before we get into this chaotic nature that college football has given us as of recent, let's talk about something relaxing, and that's 30A Hot Tubs. 30A Hot Tubs is a family-owned and American-built business supplying Viking tubs that feature high-quality material and superior components, ensuring that every aspect of the hot tub is designed to last for years to come. When it comes to relaxation, recovery, and overall well-being, few things compare to the soothing experience of a high-quality hot tub. And for Rob Abel, it's all about helping people improve their health and quality of life. Whether you're an athlete looking for muscle recovery or someone who simply wants to unwind after a long day, soaking in a hot tub can provide numerous benefits. The ideal combination of warm water and hydrotherapy jets can ease tension and lower cortisol levels to help combat anxiety. A hot tub even promotes better blood flow, which leads to better muscle recovery, reduced soreness, and improved flexibility, combined with overall cardiovascular health improvements. Even a nice nighttime soak can improve sleep quality by relaxing the body and mind before bed. So if you're interested in experiencing the therapeutic benefits of a Viking spa, reach out to Rob Abel today. If you mention this ad to Rob, your journey to relaxation and wellness starts with a $200 discount off one spa and $600 for an order of two. 30A Hot Tubs, whether you're looking for relief from sore muscles, a way to enhance your fitness routine, or simply a place to relax with family and friends, Rob is here to help you find the perfect hot tub to fit your needs. Now, let's take college football under review. And before we do anything crazy, we've got to give our preview of quite possibly one of the best traditions in college football. Maybe not the most exciting game, unless you like 3 yards in a cloud of dust style of play. But what game am I talking about? Of course, I'm talking about Army versus Navy, one of the staples of college football. I watch this game every year. I absolutely love it. Go Navy, beat Army, but that's just my opinion. But let's really break this game down. I think that Navy is really going to blow the doors off Army, pun intended. But Navy coming into this game has the #1 rushing offense in the nation. And overall, they have one of the best offenses in the nation, in the top 25 overall. Though when we do break apart this team, the defense is their weakest aspect, especially in passing. But lucky for them, this is an academy game. So what does that mean? It's going to be a lot of triple option, a lot of rush, and they have done very well against the rush this season. Blake Horvath has been nothing but short of a reliable quarterback that has been doing wonders for them. Now, when we jump to the Army side, compared to the last couple of seasons when Army has won, they've been a bit stronger, and this team is more weaker than the recent years that I've seen Army. They're about outside the top 100 in all but one of the major offensive stat groupings, and the defense has become mediocre at best. But what's really bad about their defense is that they are one of the worst teams when it comes to stopping offenses in third downs. Basically, they're around 24% in stopping. So that's not going to be good against a very effective Navy rush attack that's #1 in the nation. Outside of all the hoopla, the tradition, and everything, and the overall game, I think Navy should have a strong offensive game, converting on third downs very well with relative ease. unless this is the big caveat of unless they hurt themselves. They can really hurt themselves if they get into foul trouble and stall out their drives, as they are not very disciplined, except compared to their counterpart, Army, who is actually very disciplined in not allowing penalties against them in the game. But yeah, I think Navy is going to win this game against Army. Army is, I believe, let's double check this, but I think Army has done better than Navy in the last couple of years. Now, if you don't know about this game, there is another bowl game that is going to be going on during the game, but it should be relatively over by the time the game starts. But Army has won this matchup the last 3 out of the 5 years. Prior to that, the longest streak before that was Navy for about 12 or 13 years. But in 2024, Navy took back over in the win column. And I think that they are going to stay in the win column this season. But outside of the Army-Navy game, let's get into the bowl games. But there are quite a lot. I believe there's 41 outside of 41, 42, somewhere around there outside of the national championship playoff games. But I've compiled my top 5 non-playoff games, and we're going to go over them right now. I chose these teams. I didn't choose it based on the 2 highest ranked teams or FPI or whatever. I chose these teams because I believe that every one of these matchups have something to play for on both sides. And it's not really participation as much for them. I think it also gives themselves momentum for subpar seasons in some of these teams' mind, and allows them to have momentum for what they can do next season. So not all of these games are 2 juggernauts, but we didn't really expect that coming into a bowl season with a 12-team playoff just like last year. But the first game I want to go over, which is undoubtedly, I think, going to be the best, it's number 12 BYU against number 22 Georgia Tech in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Now, Georgia Tech coming into this game, they're 8-4. Their season really derailed at the end. BYU made it to the Big 12. They're the Big 12 runner-up, getting the doors blown off them by Texas Tech. But I think for Georgia Tech especially, this is like Haynes King's last kind of NFL push, but for his draft stock, maybe he gets drafted. But I think it's also big for his legacy within Georgia Tech. I think that Haynes King has been, like I've said before, I think in Georgia Tech fan base's mind, they love Haynes King. They think he's great. They think he is a fantastic player, fun player to watch. I think he's a great player to watch. But I think that his legacy has sort of fizzled out. It could have been a lot better if they made the ACC championship game. So I think this would be kind of a last hurrah for him, last being like, wow, do you remember Haynes King in that Pop-Tarts Bowl? He was electric. So I think that's what Georgia Tech has going for them. But on the other side, BYU, they got destroyed by Texas Tech in their Big 12 championship game. But Bear Bachmeier, he's just a freshman. I think this is going to be a very fun game to watch him and see how he goes against a different opponent outside of the Big 12, especially in this Georgia Tech team. I think the Georgia Tech offense is very good. Their defense is iffy, but I really do want to see how Bear Bachmeier really operates on a stage bigger than himself. Yes, it's the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Let's calm down there. But I felt like the Big 12 championship game, the lights were a little too bright for him, and he got a little injured, which did lead to his turnovers. But when you convert 4 turnovers, you really got to come back and get the momentum ready for next season. Show your team, hey, this is a good team. And tell the transfer players, come to BYU. We got a Bear on our team. But moving on from that game, I think the next big bowl game that's going to be a lot of fun is number 23 Iowa against number 14 Vanderbilt in the ReliaQuest Bowl. I think this game could be the defensive test we really need to see Clark Lea's team face. Yes, they've played a lot of great defenses in the SEC, but I think this Iowa team really has a Big Ten style of defense. Their defense has always been historically great in the last decade, and I think it's going to be fun to see Vanderbilt stack up against them, Diego Pavia stack up against Iowa's defense. I don't think it's going to be something earth-shattering against him, but I think it's going to be something he hasn't seen in a while. And then with Iowa, they've had another mediocre season. I've said that they've been stuck in this mediocre cycle, but Mark Gronowski, their quarterback, he's a lot of fun to watch. He has a rushing touchdown in almost every game this season, and I think it's going to give us a very much back and forth style of quarterback play that's going to be very fun to watch. I think Vanderbilt will have the advantage in this game just because the game is played in Florida. So the Iowa's not going to get any weather boost since they're used to the cold. But I still think that Iowa and Vanderbilt is going to be a very fun game to watch. Unironically, I think it's actually going to be a very high-scoring game just because I don't think Vanderbilt's defense is going to be that great against the Iowa offense with Gronowski. And so that takes us to the Holiday Bowl. Number 17, Arizona, will be playing SMU. Number 17, Arizona. They came off a great season that a lot of people didn't think were going to be a good one at all. And on the other hand, SMU has had a subpar season compared to what they had last year, making the playoffs. I think this game is going to be exciting and one of the better ones because I think you have Arizona playing for momentum into next season, transfers, and you have SMU trying to save their reputation with Kevin Jennings, with Rhett Lashley, trying to salvage whatever they can for momentum into next season. I think Arizona, I'm excited to see how they play, and if this team, it kind of gives me a last glimpse of, okay, how is this team going to improve going into next season? And I think this game will really show us because I think SMU, even though they had a subpar season, they're not doing as good as last year. I still think that this team is talented. It's just sometimes hard work beats talent when talent can't beat hard work. And I think that's what happened to them this season. So I think we're really going to see number 17 Arizona be hard work against SMU talent. And I'm excited to see who wins in the Holiday Bowl. But then one game that's going to be fun. It's not going to be. I know it will be. It's 8-4 Missouri against number 19 Virginia in the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. Now, Virginia, they are one of these teams that need to save a abysmal final end to their season and at least get some participation trophy for a job well done. Missouri, on the other side, they choked again in their SEC play. So what do they get? They get the opportunity to beat up on one of the mediocre ACC teams. I think Eli Drinkowitz, he said he's excited to play in a bowl game to show off his team's talent. I think Amon Hardy, he's going to have an absolute ball of a game if he plays, unless he opts out. But I think Missouri is going to have this shot to say, hey, we're still Missouri. We're still Missouri. We still got the Eli Drinkowitz offense. And I think Virginia just maybe too down in the dumps. But if Virginia, they just got to win this game. I mean, Virginia had so much going for them. I feel like if they do win this game, it kind of quells all the, okay, why didn't they win the ACC championship instead of being like they never should have been in the ACC championship? So I think they're going to fight for that win to say, yes, we did have the opportunity to go to the playoffs. We could have made it instead of being, we never even had a shot. So I think it'll just save some of their seasonal reputation. And for both these teams, that's what they're fighting for. And then the last bowl game that I think is going to be very fun to watch, it's number 16 USC versus TCU in the Alamo Bowl. Both of these teams had up and down seasons, but both of these teams have great offenses. And that's what's going to be electric about this game. On one side, USC is coming into 2026 with the #1 recruiting class for next season. And the TCU Horned Frogs really just feel electric enough to stump at least some of the momentum. It doesn't matter. I've said all season, whenever USC gets brought up, they're #1 in recruiting. Can someone stop the momentum? Well, it doesn't seem like the momentum's ever going to stop, but I think that the transfer portal could hurt them if TCU shows up with an electric offense with Josh Hoover at the helm, who has shown glorious moments and has also shown abysmal interceptions. I'm talking about that Arizona State game, okay? I'm still upset about it, Josh Hoover. But I think that the Alamo Bowl could be exciting. It's going to be in a dome, so I think that TCU will have the advantage because it's going to be in Texas. And I think USC, they're going to throw up some numbers, but I don't know how that defense is going to go against TCU. But I think that's going to be a fabulous game to watch nonetheless. So those are my top 5 non-playoff games that I think are going to be very exciting. I believe most of the ones I have up here on the screen, if you're watching on YouTube, Spotify video, are later in the bowl cycle. So I believe it's going to be kind of Christmas week or after. But you can check out our Instagram. We have all of the dates posted, and I'll even throw up the dates on YouTube right now in case you want to pause it and zoom in and look at it. But like I said, those teams, like all these games, these top 5 ones are not based on the top games because I think that would just be boring of me to choose. It's the ones that I think are going to be the most exciting to watch because not all bowl games are created equal. And especially talking about bowl games, we have to talk about bowl eligible teams opting out. Yes, there have been multiple teams that have chosen to opt out. Now, this isn't anything new. Players have began opting out of bowl games to preserve their health and future value as athletes in recent years. But the first ones to do it were the players likely to be high draft picks. That makes sense. You don't want to get an ACL tear. You don't want to have an injury that can drop you from a first-round pick with a lot of money to a third or fourth where you're not getting as much guaranteed money in your contract. But now it seems like the mid-round players have joined into making sure that they do get a spot in the NFL draft. Now, to be clear, I don't think this season is a microcosm in what I think is going to happen in the future, but I don't think that teams opting out of bowl games will be the norm in the future. I don't think we'll see the ones at least that are going 10-2 continue to opt out. I'm looking at you, Notre Dame. I think it will mostly be teams dealing with changes in leadership, like head coaches. But the more teams that skip out on bowls, the more we'll realize how little the bowls actually matter, and that's kind of what's happening. Now, Notre Dame is the big one in this instance. They got their feelings hurt that they couldn't make the college football playoff. Well, so sorry, so sad. You should have won your games. It's about time that we start realizing and coming to a consensus that ring culture is ruining college football. With the expansion of the playoffs, some of these higher echelon teams and programs believe that they should be in the playoff every year. But I think it's more important, and I think it's great that the committee put Notre Dame in their place because it's time they put their feet in the ground and say, no, the game played on the field matters more, and the score on the field matters more than the logo on the jerseys on that field, especially the logo on the jerseys that make it into the playoffs. Now, Notre Dame is not the only team that did not opt in for a bowl game. A lot of other teams did. Some of them were 5-win teams that only had the option to get in because of these 6-win teams didn't jump in. But I will say, you've got some teams like Iowa State, Auburn, Baylor, Kansas State. Some of these programs had head coaching changes. I don't think it's, we should look at them as the same as Notre Dame. Notre Dame has a great team. They'd go in and probably win a bowl game, but we'll never know because they don't want to make their schedule harder than it is. But going back to these other teams, it really does come down to player safety. Iowa State, they had multiple season injuries, and I don't think it's smart for them to go in a bowl game. I'm okay with that. Auburn, they just got a new head coach. Why would they go out there and play Deuce Knight only for him to possibly get an ACL tear and set them back for next season? It doesn't make any sense, and I'm okay with that. But the college football playoff really has damaged the value of bowl games more than players opting out of them ever could. And going back to Notre Dame, it's this ring-chasing type of mentality that sports are taking on. If you're not good enough, the fan base reacts. If you have a team that the news and the AP says is great, and the fan base goes along with it, going into the season, then it creates this narrative that's almost impossible to live up to, because at the end of the day, only one team can win the national championship, not everyone. Some people have to realize that. It's getting a little out of hand. Your coach loses one game that he shouldn't, fire him, and they get fired, and you just get into this cycle of buyouts. And all it's doing is hurting you, the fan, because the team and the program is then asking for you to pay more money. You say, why would I pay more money? We all were bad. Well, it's because you wanted the coach fired. And if the playoffs expand even more, I think the bowl games would most likely continue to see viewership and revenue deteriorate with more playoff games likely played on campus. So I think it's really the bowl affiliates are hurting more than the teams. But my whole thing is, what happened to playing college football for college football instead of playing college football for a business? And I think that's what we're starting to see. And that's what's starting to happen in college football. But we'll get into a little bit later, because Notre Dame being kicked out has now put them, I believe, in favor for a larger expansion for the playoffs, and they're bullying someone else. But outside of the generic bowl talk, let's talk about the Heisman finalists coming into the season. So the Heisman finalists, we've got 4 of them this season. I only had one of my preseason predictions make it on there. And the 4 are Jeremiah Love, Fernando Mendoza, Diego Pavie, and Julian Sayin. 3 quarterbacks and 1 running back. And let's go over each of them briefly. Jeremiah Love, running back from Notre Dame. His total yards exceeded 1,500, but not in the rush category. He got around 1,300 and something in the rush category, which honestly shocks me that he was even considered for the Heisman. I'm surprised they didn't put in Rodriguez from Texas Tech, a linebacker who had pretty significant stats for someone in the defense category. But I think voter fatigue had him out because of Travis Hunter last season. But he had 199 carries and 6.9 yards per carry. Nice. And he had 21 touchdowns on the season. The touchdowns are combining receiving yards. For me, he's definitely going to be 4th on this list. He had a good season in what I would say talent-wise, and when he did get the ball, he did some great things, but he did not get the ball enough. He didn't score enough, and he didn't have enough rush yards to win the Heisman this year. So I definitely think he will be coming in 4th. It's all because he had to share reps with Jadarian Price, the other great running back. I'm not bashing Jadarian Price for that or Notre Dame. I'm just simply stating why he's not going to win the Heisman. And then let's take a look at the betting favorite right now, Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback from Indiana. He had 3,222 total yards with a 71.5 completion percentage, only 6 interceptions, and 39 touchdowns on the season. Fernando Mendoza was an electric quarterback that led Indiana to its first ever undefeated season, its second Big Ten title, and they're going into the playoffs as the number 1 team in the nation. Nothing short of miraculous for an Indiana program that 2 years ago was the worst, by definition, the worst college football program in the history of college football. Now, and that's not an understatement. They had the most losses of any team in the history of college football. Now it's Northwestern. Congratulations, Northwestern. But Fernando Mendoza did nothing but throw absolute dimes. I think his biggest win was against Ohio State or Oregon. He just looked like a more complete quarterback in Oregon, but that Ohio State defense was very tough. He did have, I believe, his Heisman moment in either the Penn State game or the Ohio State drive to get them up, or against Ohio State with the drive to take them up in the Big Ten title game and eventually win. But I think the biggest thing that Fernando Mendoza lacks is the difficulty of schedule. In this team already being in the playoffs last season, so it doesn't make it seem as impeccable or improbable that they wouldn't have been here without him. He was definitely a large proponent of their great season. I'm not saying that he's not. I'm just saying I think that's the only counter argument you could have against Fernando Mendoza. And then the third one, I think Fernando also will either be, I think he'll be first or he could be second. And you may say, how could he be second? Well, it's because of this next guy. Diego Pavie, quarterback from Vanderbilt. He had 4,018 total yards on the season, 71.2 completion percentage, 8 interceptions, and 38 touchdowns. Now, his completion percentage, it's below Mendoza. Touchdowns, 1 below. Interceptions, more than Mendoza. But he has almost 800 more total yards, and that was all because of what he could do on the ground. And I believe Diego Pavie went up against a tougher schedule than Fernando Mendoza did. When we're looking what Diego Pavie has done for Vanderbilt, I think it's a lot more than what Fernando Mendoza has done for Ohio State or for Indiana. And you may say, well, how is that possible? I mean, you just told us how great he was at Indiana and all the accomplishments that they had with him. Yes, but when was the last time that you've seen Vanderbilt go have game day twice in a season? When was the last time you saw Vanderbilt be in the conversation for a national championship anytime in your life? When was the last time that Vanderbilt football was cool and you had celebrities on the sideline and hanging out with Diego Pavie? None in your lifetime. And that's what's so special about him. I think he is a transcendent player of Vanderbilt culture and what he brought to the program. Like I said, I think the Heisman player should be the most outstanding player that is a game changer. Diego Pavie is a game changer. You have to respect him and the way he plays. I think when we look at Fernando Mendoza, with their easy schedule, they were able to stat pad him out the wazoo. Diego Pavie, on the other hand, he was able to win in the SEC and just win confidently. Those stats are not inflated. They are due to his raw athletic talent. And that is why I think Diego Pavie should be number 1, but I think he will be number 2 in the Heisman rankings. And that brings us to our last candidate for the Heisman. It's Julian Sayin, quarterback from Ohio State. He had 3,321 total yards, a 78.4 completion percentage, 6 interceptions, and 31 touchdowns. I think Julian Sayin is going to be third in the Heisman rankings overall. He's got fewer touchdowns than Pavie and Mendoza, though his interceptions are on par with Mendoza. His completion percentage is better than both. But his total yards are in between the two. But he really was a pocket passer QB. He had -2 rushing yards this season, and he's only a freshman. He didn't do anything crazy like Johnny Manziel. Ohio State was already a good team. The defense carried them this season. The training wheels were on Julian Sayin a lot of the season, and I think because of that and their schedule, just like Indiana, not being as great, that he'll drop down to third in the Heisman voting. But I think he just still had a great year overall as a freshman quarterback and will continue to be good as an Ohio State Buckeye. But overall, with the Heisman going on, I think this was a much weaker year. I think this is a year, if Ashton Tinty was in it, he would have won the Heisman easily. But I had a feeling at the beginning of the season it was going to be a quarterback-heavy Heisman, and I believe a quarterback will win the Heisman, and it seems like that is going to come true. I think Jeremiah Love was kind of just a toss-in. I don't really think we could have had him in there because I don't think he's anywhere close to being that. So with the Heisman conversation out of the way, there's two more kind of big things that are interesting that happened this week. And first one is the ACC. The ACC commissioner, Jim Phillips, on Wednesday called for an immediate expansion of the 12-team playoff and said he wants the college football playoff to also examine whether it should scale back the weekly rankings released during the 5 weeks leading up to Selection Sunday. The conference commissioners met on Tuesday in Vegas to discuss the playoff, but no format agreement emerged. And the Big Ten and SEC control the votes needed to get the future format, but the sides have yet to reach an agreement on any structure beyond 12 teams. It seems that ACC and Notre Dame are now in this boat of expanding the playoffs, and it seems like the SEC and Big Ten are now going to fight over which one they should support. The SEC, I believe, 16, where it's, top 16 teams, or the Big Ten, where it's their 24 format with 4 automatic qualifiers for the SEC, Big Ten, 2 for the ACC, 2 for the Big 12. But I think this is all coming after Notre Dame didn't make the playoffs, and Notre Dame accused the ACC of pushing for Miami in the playoffs, not Notre Dame. And you may say, well, Notre Dame, you're independent. Yes, that's true. But in all other sporting all other sports for Notre Dame and their athletic department, they are a part of the ACC, and they are with the ACC for everything else. And this is a quote from Jim Phillips. He said, "We have good teams being left out. I think we have that responsibility to make sure that we get to a number that we feel better about. That either we believe anybody after that wouldn't necessarily win a national championship, or we at least cut into that margin. And I don't know what we can get done in the next 6 weeks, but we're committed to staying together and working with the management committee to figure this thing out." This is 100% Notre Dame bullying the ACC, and I don't think they threatened anything. All they did was say that they're not on good terms, and they kind of just shrugged their shoulders together and said, "We're upset." Well, I'm sorry, Notre Dame, that you didn't get your little participation trophy into the playoffs. I think Notre Dame only has to blame themselves. When we're looking at your 2 losses, you lost to Texas A&M by 1 point. I wonder how that happened, because you didn't have your fundamentals right, and you relied on a former lacrosse player to be your placeholder for the point after try. And then the other game was Miami. Now, if I'm scratching my head because I'm thinking, why would you be upset that a team you lost to made it into the playoffs? Because both the teams that you lost to are in the playoffs. And if the ACC is arguing, well, there was a team that could have won the national championship that's not in the playoffs, and that's Notre Dame. Well, to me, it sounds like Notre Dame couldn't have even made it past the first round, because the 2 teams that they lost to are Miami and Texas A&M. End of discussion, end of argument. It's sad, pathetic, and unprofessional, Notre Dame. It's completely just emasculating what you are doing. You're supposed to be this golden figure of college football, yet you're just a shell of what you once were. So I'm real nervous for 2026 because your schedule looks really easy, and I think a lot of these programs are about to start boycotting you if you don't get your act right. Okay, and then the other big news that happened. Athletic director for Michigan, Ward Manuel, said Wednesday the termination of Sharon Moore was the result of an inappropriate relationship between him and his staff member. Evidence was found that Coach Moore engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a staff member, and associate head coach Biff Poggi has been appointed interim head coach effective immediately. So Biff was the interim head coach for 2 games this season when Sharon Moore and Michigan did their self-probation against Sharon Moore. Now, the big thing about this is Michigan fired him after 2 seasons. He was always going to be the fall guy. I think they were going to wait another year to fire him so that the buyout wasn't that bad. He was the fall guy. He was everything that they needed him to be. But I don't think they realized that he would make it super easy on them, because them firing him with cause means that he will not get any of his buyout. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole gossip about what's going on. It's truly sad to see in college football. It's sad to see just for people how his life in one day effectively just turned a 180. He was detained by police. I'm not going to go into that. But what I will go into is the Michigan athletic department. They are the ones that need to be investigated, not them doing these investigations on themselves, because this is probably like the 5th or 6th investigation I've heard of in the last 5 years since COVID. The athletic department is sad, pathetic, and disgraceful. It's just not unprofessional. It's disgraceful. There were a lot of rumors that they have kind of known about this the last 4 to 6 weeks. And you may say, well, if they knew about it the last 4 to 6 weeks, why didn't they fire him earlier? And I'll tell you why. If this is the case, it's because they wanted to see if they could beat Ohio State. They wanted to see if they could make the college football playoff. And they wanted to wait until they deceived all these high schoolers that they should sign up to be a Michigan Wolverine and, join a historically great program and a historically proud program. And so they waited a week after they secured these players to then fire Sharon Moore. It's very disgraceful. It's hypocritical. And Michigan athletic department, the NCAA really needs to take a look at them and figure something out. The governor should probably step in, but I doubt that will happen. The Michigan fan base is in disarray. I think all I have to say is, Michigan, welcome back to being irrelevant for 20 years and then maybe having a national championship run, because you have had nothing but corruption within your program. And I don't know what recruit would really want to be a part of your program after this, especially with the parents being involved, if they are involved. So that's my 2 cents on Michigan. And you may say, yes, they can transfer out, but everyone else already kind of has their roster set. So I think it's kind of arbitrary to say they can transfer out, because the other good teams that may have wanted these players, they're not worried about them. They're worried about winning a national championship. So I think only the best of the best few players will be able to leave. So it's just a sad thing to see. But December 18th, next Thursday, will be the next episode, and we're going to preview the first round of the playoffs. And after that, I'll let you know what the schedule is. But that currently wraps up this bowl season cleanup news conference of a episode of Under Review. But I'm Nick Watts, and thank all of you for tuning into this episode, and we'll see you next time when we take more college football under review.